Alright, we'll go ahead and get started. For those of you who don't know me, I'm not sure how well the stand is going to work. I'll probably take it off in like 2 minutes. But for those who don't know me, my name is Greg Hackathorn, and I'm the National Media Director for the UPCA. And I've worked with churches for many years when it comes to social media and online presence. A lot of this is going to be a bit of a rehash from Ministers and Leadership Retreat I shared a couple years ago about a similar topic. I have updated it a bit with some experience that I've had in the last few years, most notably this past year with starting to work on the Central Coast and what I've learned from that in regards to social media and the things that we can deliver in different settings. But one thing that I've tried to cultivate over the years, working with the UPCA as well as POS, or Pentecostal Sydney, is to cultivate a passion for church growth. And I've read many books about it. I've looked at what other churches are doing around the world. I think that's important. That's one thing that you want to keep in mind, to watch what other churches are doing, what other organizations are doing, and see if that's something that you can replicate. Not to the point where you're constantly comparing yourself and you're feeling down about what you're doing, but more so for ideas. So you look at that and I've listened to podcasts and about marketing and social media trends. And basically the reason I do all that is because I want the church to grow. And I feel like this is an avenue where we can help the church grow. We can help those who are in the business of building churches. We can be a huge asset. In fact, at Pentecostal Sydney, our most effective evangelism tool for years has been our online presence, for a number of years now. And whether that is people finding us through Google searches, or sermons on YouTube, or pictures, videos on Facebook and Instagram. And this year, as I mentioned earlier, I've also had the opportunity to see how this works firsthand in a smaller setting. Previous years, I've been talking on this topic, and I grew up in a smaller church, but we didn't have social media, so social media pretty much took off by the time I already migrated to Australia. That's still a weird word to say, but migrated to Australia and started working for the Pentecostal Sydney, which is a larger church, so there's more resources. So this year, I was able to get a first-hand look at what it's like working in a smaller setting, and hopefully I can share some ideas with you who are working in such a situation. But we do have a similar approach there. At Pentecostal Central Coast, we have a similar approach to our social media as we do at the POS. It's just on a smaller scale. What is manageable? What can we do? Smaller team, smaller scale. But the reason your online presence is so important is because people are searching for your churches online. That's where they're finding you. Most people are not driving by a church every once in a while. If you have a good location, which some of you I know are blessed with that, that's great if you get walk-ins based on the location. But for the most part, especially if you're 40 and under, you're probably not going to go to a church unless you had a look at what it looks like online and what the church is like. And that's similar to the way that we experience finding new restaurants or cafes or hotels. How many of you, when you were looking for a hotel, did you just see the first one, click it, and go? Or if you were just happening to camera and you drove by a hotel, it's like, oh, I'm going to stay there. No, you wouldn't have done that. You would have looked it up, see what the room was like, see how much they're charging, so on and so forth. And similar things are happening when it comes to people who are coming to your church for the first time. They want to see what it's going to be like. They don't want surprises. They don't want to walk in on an environment that they don't know anything about. And so that's why it's so important. And my wife, she loves to discover new places to eat on social media. And you've never been there, but the photos look good. So, and that goes to another portion that we have to have pretty good ethics as to what we're displaying. We don't want to try and pretend like we're something that we're not, because then people come and just are disappointed. And you're going to have a one-time guest and they'll never come back. So, just like you would if you went to a cafe that looks good on socials, you go there and it's terrible, you're never going back. And then you'll probably tell other people not to go there as well. So we have to be mindful of that. But In a recent research study published by reviews.org about phone use, they found that the average Australian spends 5.5 hours on their phones every day, with millennials and Gen Zers spending an average of 7 hours on their phones daily. That's an average. So people are spending more, some are spending less. And of course, we can complain about that as a society. We can teach against it. I think that's important, that we do teach against overusing our phones. You know, that's something that we should talk about. But we also have to understand that this is the reality that we live in. And so we can't pretend like this isn't the life that people are living. They're on their phones all the time. And so this is an opportunity for us to meet them where they're at. You know, they're not maybe coming into your building, they're maybe not driving past the church, but they are online, and you can get a message to them. You don't have to knock on the door, but you can get a message to them through this medium, through your online presence. And then we have to shift sometimes our negative view of these social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok, and think about how we can use this powerful tool to preach the gospel, because that's where the people are at. And so these are avenues that we can use to minister the gospel to people who need to hear it. And so today I want to talk about a few simple ways that you can enhance your online presence. The vast majority of you are in this room, you're wanting to learn about this. You probably already have an online presence. You're probably already doing stuff with your church or with your department, with your organization. And so today I just want to give you some tips, some hints as to things that you might be able to use. Feel free, take some of it, leave some of it. If it's not doable, that's fine. I'm not going to be offended. But I'm just trying to give you some ideas that you might want to use moving forward. And so I think the place that we need to start is, what is the purpose of your social media page? What is the purpose of your social media page and your website? Yes, it's a place where people can find out more about your church. It's a place where they can learn more about who you are and so on and so forth. They can learn about events. They can see who you are, your mission. They can see what time you meet, what time your services are, who your pastor is, what you look like. These are all great things that they need to be able to find out about us online. But it should be used to minister to our local community. It's not just about information, but it also should be about ministry. We want to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so our communication online should center around the gospel and sharing our pastor's vision or our leader's vision with the community. And why is that? Because we have been called to reach the lost. And God has called our pastors to our communities. They didn't call them just to the gathering of however many people are in the church. But when God called your pastor, He called them to that community. And so if the message is only staying within the four walls, then the pastor's message is not getting out to the rest of the community who God has called them to. And so this is an opportunity for us to expand the reach of that message every week. Their calling isn't just to the church, but it's also to the community. So how are we getting the message from Sunday outside the four walls of the church? How are we getting that out? How are we communicating the gospel outside of the church? Well, one easy way to get the message out, that many of us have adopted in the last few years is live streaming our services. So why should you be live streaming your service? So, number one, you can keep people connected to your church while they are sick or traveling. You can minister to those who may be isolated geographically, so if they're unable to drive a number of hours to get to your church, they can be ministered to. And we have seen that. We've seen people who live 2 to 3 hours away from the closest church, and they're able to stay connected online. You can present the gospel to those who are outside the church building. You can give potential guests an opportunity to connect with the church before they're actually attending in person. And so that barrier is kind of taken down because they see the people who are on the platform, maybe the pastor, so there's a familiarity there before they even come to church service. So That's why you should be streaming your service. Now, I'm going to offer a second side to that, and this has been really influenced by this last year working with POCC. So here are some reasons why you shouldn't be live streaming. Okay, so there are good reasons why you should be live streaming, but there's also very valid reasons why you shouldn't be live streaming, or maybe considering stopping your live streaming. So you don't have the capacity to do it effectively. So let's say there's no ability for you to actually do it, and so maybe you're just putting a camera, maybe you're just putting a phone up and you're recording that way, and you just don't have the ability to do the audio mix that you would like to do just because maybe you're setting up. You know, like for us at POCC, we're having to set up every Sunday, so we don't really have the capacity to put all that together in the time that we have to get everything ready for the service. There's no demand for it, so are you live streaming and no one's watching? Well, why are you live streaming? You're putting extra effort into something that, you know, it is a waste of your time. It is. If no one's watching it, so if there's no demand, think about that. So, and the reason I've added this is because before COVID, I was having to convince everyone to live stream. No one was live streaming. Post-COVID, because we all had to live stream during COVID, right? Post-COVID, now we have to reevaluate, okay, now I know why we did it during COVID. People weren't able to come to the building, so we had to live stream. But now they're able to come, so should we continue to do that? Another one, so there's no demand for it. The next one is, it will have a negative impact on potential in-person guests. So if someone is interacting with your live stream first before they're ever interacting with you, is that something that you are happy for that to occur? That's a question that you have to ask. And for me, as someone who's trying to launch a church and grow a church, I was like, no, I'd rather than not experience POCC from the first time with just one camera and room audio. It's a decent experience. You know, we're proud of what we put together on a weekly basis. But is that the first experience that I want with the Pentecostal Central Coast? I don't think so, from my perspective. Now again, that's up to you and that's up to your pastor to decide what you think when it comes to live streaming every week. And so as I said, since the 2020 national lockdowns, POS and I know churches around Australia continue to get first-time guests from live streaming. And so every pastor I've spoken to, right, so I'm not picking on anyone, but every pastor I've spoken to, they have that one testimony of that person who was watching online, and because they just happened to be watching online that one Sunday, they came, right? And they hear that testimony, and that encourages them. We have to have live streaming every week. This is what we have to do. And I understand that. But we don't hear the people who went to your page, watched the video, and then never gave you a second chance. They're not going to talk to you, right? Because they already had a look and they didn't want it. So we have to think about that as well. We can't just think about the testimonies, but we also have to think about the potential negative impacts that might be taking place. I'm not saying don't live stream. Please don't misunderstand me. What I'm saying is, let's think about it. Instead of just doing it because we all did it, we had to do it because of COVID, let's think about why we're doing it. And if it's still effective and it's still accomplishing what you want, and there's still a group of people within your church who are relying on that, then you should definitely keep it going, 100%. But just consider that. So as I said, when it comes to POCC, we do not live stream our services, and I don't plan on doing that anytime in the near future, especially with how we're setting up. But this is what I do to compensate for that, right? So we talk about getting the message outside the four walls. Well, if you're not live streaming, how's the message get out, right? It's not recorded or whatever. So what we try to do is we will get a high quality camera, a good quality camera, and we'll get high quality video of the sermon. So you record the sermon, and in some of the worship, if you want to do that, in-house worship in small bites is good. Like if it's like a 40-second clip of in-house worship, and you're just using a mic that's on your camera, you can still get pretty good audio doing that, right? But if it's 30 minutes of it, then that might be a challenge. And that's what I'm talking about with the give and take with live stream. But if you're doing a high quality video, then you can record that, you can post that later for like a podcast. You can do the sermon, post that as a sermon, And then if it's high quality, that's the important part, you can then clip it later and use it for socials, which we'll get into a little bit later in this talk today. So that's something that we try to do. It's very simple. You have one tripod, one camera, set it up, press record. That's it. And I don't have to worry about someone manning it. Because I don't move. So. Some of your pastors might move, so that might be a challenge. You might have to get a volunteer on that. All right, so that's enough about that. I feel like I've covered that good enough. So I know live streaming can be challenging from a technical perspective. And I know we spend a lot of money on live stream. A lot of our churches do. So, maybe bring that to your pastor and have a talk with him and say, okay, well, why are we doing this? And then do we want to continue investing? It may be something you want to invest in. Because like I said, there are huge pros to it. You get the gospel outside 4 walls of your church live. People are able to interact. People are able to experience the presence of God in their homes. So there are a lot of pros. But we also have to consider the cons as well. Another way, Another way that we can get the message outside is by using social media. So for years, we've treated our church Facebook and Instagram pages as an extension of the church announcements. So what's happening this week? We want people to come to church. And that's coming from a good heart. We want people to come to church. We want people to come to an event. You want them to experience the presence of God in your church facility. And we use it to promote events. We use it to share scripture verses. But over the years, the algorithms have changed. And so if you're using social media, we're at the mercy of their algorithm. We can't do anything about that. You can scream, but you're screaming into a void that nobody's listening to. So we have to accommodate what is taking place if we want to use these platforms. And so over the years, the algorithms have changed. And if you share a nice image with text on it, beautifully designed, almost nobody sees it. Not even your community that has already liked or followed your page. So not only are you not going to get reach beyond your community, but even the people within your community are not going to see it. It doesn't matter how big or how small your page is. So, for example, my personal podcast page, if I just do an image, no matter how many followers I get, it's going to be small views. If I do a reel, it'll be a lot more views. That's just the algorithm. That's how it works. So I'll give you an example. With the UPCA social page, we posted a beautifully designed image promoting our website, promoting the UPCA website. And Mai, who does most of our graphic design, she's phenomenal. And she put together this beautiful image. We posted it on Facebook, and we have 9,000 followers on Facebook, UPCA. If you're not following us, follow us. We need to get to 10,000, praise God. And so that post reached 1,500 people, which is decent, and it had about 68 engagements. So 9,000, 1,500. 68. The following day, literally the next day, we posted a collection of images from Pentecostals of Campbelltown promoting their church. In Pentecostals of Campbelltown, those photos are a mismatch of, like Nathan Murray, he's a very good photographer, so there's some great photos with a camera proper, so on and so forth. Then there's other just mobile camera photos, because if someone's getting baptized, we want a photo of it, right? So it's a mix of quality photos, but it's still good quality. We posted that, and that reached 3,400 people, and there were 304 interactions. So literally double the people reached, and 4x the amount of interaction. It's a huge difference, and the reason that is because there was pictures of people. It was an event that was taking place, and there was photos of individuals, and so the algorithm was promoting that. It doesn't take a professional photographer to take good photos or videos. Our smartphone cameras are so powerful that you can use them to produce really good content. And photos help you tell the story and praise God for the wonderful things that He is doing. Now, that being said, again, another caveat. So I've been beating this drum for years now to try and get people to take photos. And it's been amazing to see the pages and the churches and the departments that are doing so much better at getting photos out, sharing about their church, sharing about what God is doing. It really helps me with the UPCA because then I can celebrate what you guys are doing, because it's not just a text, but it's actually a photo. But I do want to add this caveat. I think we need to understand that sometimes posting one really good photo is better than posting a bunch of suboptimal photos. So if we take a whole bunch of photos, but maybe they're not so good, if you can pick one or two of that group that are good, that's going to perform better than posting 10 to 12 photos that are not as good quality. And again, it doesn't have to be an expensive camera. You can use your phone. But taking a more critical approach as to what you're putting online, as opposed to just saying, oh, sister so-and-so did all this work for me today, so I'm just going to post every photo that she took. Well, I'll give you a good example. At POCC, we get volunteer photographers in every week, and thankfully we're blessed with people from POS. Even on our team, our team that's helping launch the church, we have people who are skilled with photography. And we've got one woman who's very good, but she just gets super eager. And she'll take like 150, 180 photos, right? And the next day I'm just like, kill me, Lord. Because I have to go through every photo and try and find some. But what I try to do is even, like, and the more difficult part is she's actually very good. So you're going through and you're trying to like, okay, that one's a little bit better, okay. And then you try to sort through, anyway, whatever. That's another discussion. But my point is even if there's like 150 pretty good photos, you normally would maybe try to find a place for them. I still limit it to no more than 8 to 12 photos that I'm going to be posting every week, regardless, no matter how good they are, or if it's a really good Sunday, even if it's a big Sunday. Like for our Christmas celebration, we had some really nice photos. We tried to do our best with that, but even with that one, it was still the same amount of photos because with the smaller church setting, you're having a similar size group, right? That's just the reality. So we're having similar people there every week. So if we're posting photos of every single person every week, then people know it's the same people every week, and this is their first impression with your church, right? So if you limit the amount of photos you're posting, and then you're choosing strategically to post different people each week, like say this week we posted a photo of sister so-and-so, well next week we'll post a photo of brother so-and-so, and then that way, it's still the same people, but you're not giving off the vibe that this is a small church. The vibe is this is a growing church. This is a church of different people, of a church that is, maybe a bit small, but we're growing. Another recommendation is to take tighter shots. So instead of taking like a shot, like say for example in here, and this goes back to marketing, and it might be a tiny bit of manipulation, but whatever. But like say for example, if I wanted to talk about this session, right, and I want to post a photo of this session, I'm not posting a photo, like say Gabrielle's at the back there and she takes a photo from the corner of the whole room. I'm not posting that, because then it looks like, well, no one came, right? Even though we got a decent group, but no one's there. But if she were to take a photo of like another subject who's here on the platform, or maybe me, and takes it through a couple people, then that makes it appear like it is. There are people there, it just may not be a full group, right? And so if you're, especially for someone who may be in a bigger venue, but you have a smaller group of people, you don't want to just be taking wide shots of the whole room. And again, if you've got your camera phone, it's very, you can definitely repeat it on your camera phone. Just try to take photos of single individuals, single subjects, as opposed to the whole room. Because that way, what you're communicating online is, this is a church. This is happening. It's hard to share what a worship service is like at your church, right? And so if you're just showing a bland, everyone's got their hands up, but it's the whole room. Even if the whole room has their hands up, it's a powerful moving spirit. All people are seeing is, wow, there's a lot of empty space there. Whereas if you've got a photo of one or two people in the same section lifting their hands, then that communicates better what is actually happening in the group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Another thing I'd like to encourage you to do is do your best to edit your photos. Don't try and post any raw photos as best as you can. And there's so many free apps out there that you can use to edit photos. You can use there's an app called Afterlight, which is 100% free. You can use, I know Canva has some editing tools that you can use. Instagram even has filters that you can use. So there are free things that you can use to try and edit your photos a little bit. Use the crop feature as well, try and crop some of your photos. It's going to take a little bit extra time, but this is all things you can do on your smartphones. You know, if you have a laptop, that's going to be a bonus, but you can do this on your smartphone as well. So Afterlights 1. I use Lightroom because I have a subscription to that and I need presets. I don't know how to edit. So I just look at what other photographers and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. And then go through like 15. Oh, that's a little bit better. Whereas our team at POS, they've learned how to use Lightroom Classic, so they actually do some proper editing. But that's something you can learn online. You can learn that on YouTube, connect with someone who may know a bit more about editing, and try and learn from there. All right, so a good rule of thumb, and I'm going to open up for questions at the end if I can stop talking, and then you can ask some specific questions about this. A good rule of thumb to follow on social media is to have 2 or 3 ministry-type posts for every promotional post of an in-person event. So it's good to have a promotional post for your events, but try not to fill your feed full of promotional stuff. Have ministries-type stuff. So what does that mean? That means things that are going to be ministering to people, as opposed to just promoting events. So think of ways that you can minister to your online community as opposed to just inviting them to prayer or to Sunday service. You can do that as well, but think about other things that you can do. People are seeking community. Nowadays, people are seeking community. They're not seeking programs. They're not necessarily seeking to come to an event, but they want to know people. They want to have a relationship. Because people are lonely. We live in a society full of lonely people who need God. And so, in a society like that, think about this. Which is more effective? An image promoting your church on Sunday? So an image promoting, come to our church on Sunday, we have service at such and such time. Which do you think is more effective? That image, or an image of a person smiling, so just a simple photo of a person smiling, again, easily something you can do. And then in the caption, you should read the caption below for testimony. And in the caption below, you write the person's testimony. And it doesn't have to be astounding. It could be a simple testimony, but something that will minister to people, right? And if they take the time to read it, it's gonna communicate to them. And so we have to consider the society that we're living in. We're living in a society of people who feel lonely, who don't feel like they belong. And so if we can try to provide a space online where people feel like they can belong, then they'll come to your in-person event. So here's some great tips from Greg Shearer. If you don't follow him, he is a great follow. He always, he's not 100 for 100. Nobody's 100 for 100. I'm not 100 for 100. So some of his stuff might be a little controversial. He does that also to get reach, but he does have good content to share. So here are some tips from him. The number one rule that he has is stop the scroll. So people are just scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, and so try and think of content that you can produce that is going to keep people from just moving on to the next thing. The next one is start meaningful conversations. So think about the post that you're putting up. Is this starting something that is meaningful, that is relevant to people's lives? Provoke spiritual practice. So encourage people to pray, encourage people to attend service, to maybe do a Bible study, connect other people, learn the Word of God, read the Word. Document your wins. This is huge. So if you have a baptism, if you have a Holy Ghost infilling, if it's leadership's birthdays, these are easy wins for us. Everyone wants to celebrate pastor's birthday. So don't let that go by without posting it on your social media. And I know some pastors don't like that, but communicate the vision, because people will interact with it, then the algorithm promotes it, then your page shows up in other people's feeds. And then you can actually gain interest from others through that post. Even though it's just a post celebrating your pastor's birthday, that's not the whole point. Yes, we want to celebrate our pastor, but we also want to, this is an easy opportunity for us to maybe get more people connected to our church. And then the next one they talked about is called the Sunday Snowball, so I'm going to unpack that. I've talked about this before. insight now. So the Sunday snowball. So work in tandem with your Sunday message. So what is ministered on Sunday? Work with that throughout the week. Don't just let it die on Sunday, but let's work with that throughout the week. So one thing you can do is you can post a clip from the Sunday sermon with the main point. So you can even ask your pastor, hey, what was your main point from this message? If you're brave enough, you're not paying attention. Said it 7 times. But you could ask your pastor for the main point. If you're live streaming, this is another thing that's I guess good about live streaming. If you're live streaming your service, you already have that video content online, so you can find that on Facebook or YouTube in the background, in the back end of Facebook or YouTube. If you need help figuring that out, let me know. But you can download that onto your device and edit. You can even edit within Facebook now. You can create reels from Facebook. You can create shorts from YouTube within their program. You don't actually have to introduce a separate program to do that. So try to find the main point. And if you're going to be posting this on Instagram or YouTube, from like a YouTube short, make sure that it's less than 1 minute, and make sure that you crop it to vertical. So make sure that it's cropped to vertical. So instead of it being widescreen, go up and down, 9:16, right? And what that does is it's more appealing to the algorithm, and you're going to reach more people by making it vertical because that's what they want. That's what Instagram, that's what Facebook want you to be producing. And that goes back to what I was talking about with the high quality video recording. So if you're doing a high quality video recording of the sermon, then when you make that crop, you go vertical, it's still high quality content. It's not getting all blurry and fuzzy, but it's still good and it's something that you'll want to watch later. I encourage you to script it, so make sure that you have captions on it. Now, for whatever reason, people like to use social media with the sound off, and so they'll read it before they actually start watching it. And Taylor was an early adopter to that. She used to watch shows with the captions. Like, what's wrong with you? You're reading a movie. What's going on here? Captions, so you can do that for free as well. You don't have to have Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro. You can do that through Instagram. Instagram will script it for you. And I've seen churches with very, very, very good social media use Instagram captions. So you can definitely use that. You can use CapCut for captions as well, for free. So that's less than a minute. For Facebook, you want to have it between 3 to 5 minutes. So I know Facebook's trying to push Reels. From my experience, Reels are going nowhere on Facebook. So, and that's because Reels appeal to a younger generation who is not on Facebook. So you can still post Reels that you'll still reach people for sure. But if you have limited bandwidth, let's say you can't just produce everything, so go for that 3 to 5 minute video on Facebook and crop it to either square or 4:5. That's what Facebook wants. They want it square or 4:5, and if it's 3 to 5 minutes, it'll be promoted within the algorithm because Facebook has been trying to compete with YouTube for a long time now. Another thing that you can do is you can have your pastor do a 1-minute recap of the sermon from Sunday. And somebody that I've seen doing this recently is Brother Downs from Calvary Chapel. And I always watch them. They're great. He's giving you a little recap of what happened that Sunday, what may be coming up during the week. And that's another great thing that you can do. That's another way you can carry forward that what happened on Sunday. Another one is post an image from Sunday with a caption. So instead of posting all of the photos that were taken in one hit, you can spread them out throughout the week. And so you can post an image from Sunday with a caption discussing one of the main points or quoting the main passage from the sermon. So that's just a way to take what was happening on Sunday and get it outside of that little window and move it throughout the week to continue to minister to the church, but also to the community. Remember, our goal is to get our pastor's message outside of the 4 walls of the church. And not only for those in the community, but to remind our members of what God spoke to them on Sunday. And if you have 2 services on Sunday with 2 different sermons, sometimes they forget completely what was preached. So if we're reminding them during the week, then they're like, oh yeah, okay, yes, I do want to apply that to my life. Oh yeah, I do want to do that. Oh yeah, that is something that I need to work on, so on and so forth. So as I said, Facebook and Instagram, they're pushing video content because they're competing with YouTube, they're competing with TikTok. And TikTok is ruining all social platforms. That's a millennial saying that. So we can use that knowledge to our advantage. I was talking to the board actually. Surprisingly, they're interested in this sort of stuff. But I was talking to them about how they produce content every single week. You know, we all talk about content creators, right? Your pastor is producing 60 minutes, between 30 to 60 minutes of content every single week. And it would be a shame if we just left it there. This is something that we can use throughout the week. They put in the time, they put in the effort, the spiritual discipline, and so then we can reward that effort by pushing it out throughout the week. That's our goal. Another positive with the current way social media is going is that raw content, stuff that is shot from your camera phone, is now considered more authentic, and people like it. There are social media influencers who post nothing but footage from their phones, or they'll go out and buy like $10,000 cameras and try and pretend that it's a phone. I've seen that. And then people pick up on it straight away and they don't like it. So for Gen Z, they like that authentic feel of the mobile camera. And that's why you'll see at these large conferences in the States, they have all these like in-person views of the preaching, and those are going viral. Whereas all the money is being spent on a broadcast production, and people are like, yeah, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch that shaky video. But that's what people want to watch. So we don't produce content for what we want them necessarily to view. As far as the mechanism that you're delivering it, right? I'm not talking about like what you're saying, but the mechanism you're using, you're not trying to bend their will to your will, right? You try and flow with what's happening and capitalize on what is happening with different trends. So photos are good, but videos are better, at least for the moment. And I want to give a shout out to Livestream Church. They do a very good job week to week producing really good mixture of photo and video content in a challenging space. Like they don't have a huge space, and yet they're maximizing the equipment that they have and what they're doing. And I encourage you guys to check out what they're doing if this is somewhere where you're wanting to grow as a church, because I think the stuff that they put out is phenomenal. So try and think of ways to include more videos in your posts, especially when trying to tell the story of your church. Think of ways that you can include it. I know it's not easy, but try and think of more ways that you can include it. So, for example, at POS, some of our most effective content has been personal testimonies that were shared with a camera phone. And so you can minister to people. Authenticity is key. Being authentic is always the best. And people love testimonies. They love that. You can create amazing video content just using your phone, so on and so forth. All right. Let me skip ahead because I want to give you guys time for questions. All right, so here's an idea of kind of what my strategy has been over the years with POS and POCC. This just give you a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at. I know the font's not the best, but so on Tuesdays, pretty much every week for the last couple of years, we try to share a testimony. Mostly it's video, sometimes photo with a caption, and this can be a testimony from a sermon, or it can be one that's shared by an individual. So I know it could be a challenge to get an individual person to share their testimony every week. But if you have Sermon Archive, you can go back and try and find a testimony that maybe a pastor shared or a preacher has shared at your church. Even someone maybe on Mother's Day has shared a testimony. You can use that, and we try to post at least one every week. I'll give you a good example. And this is what I mean by social media is crazy, right? So listen to this. We had one of our young ladies speak at our Youth Sunday. So typically Youth Sunday, they're pretty raw. You know, they're not all eloquent, and you know, you're trying to just get the youth involved, right? You're trying to sow into the next generation. So on this Youth Sunday, one of our young ladies just shared her testimony. Simple testimony. It was like a 5-6 minutes. If you're in the building, it was a 5 to 6 minute testimony. Service moved on. There was no altar call. There wasn't like 500 people filled with the Holy Ghost. But we clipped that testimony and we posted that on socials. And the amount of people that have been reached from that, a 5-minute testimony in a normal church Sunday service, clipped it, posted on social media, that testimony has ministered to 500,000 people. A young person. We're not talking about, General Superintendent Stanley Hardin. We're talking about just a young person sharing a raw testimony that's ministered to 500,000 people. And that was a moment that could easily have been forgotten. No one would have ever remembered it, but because we took the time to clip that testimony and share it, that resonated with people around the world. So testimony on Tuesday, Wednesday, we try to do an image or a carousel highlighting the main point from Sunday's sermon. Thursday, a reel or a sermon clip. And we've sort of started posting more and more reels recently, and that's because our team has gotten bigger. Friday, image from service with scripture, and then Saturday, a reel with an invitation to our Sunday service. And this could be a photo reel, so you could use like extra photos that you have, create a reel, inviting people to Sunday service, which I've done many times for POCC, or a video of someone from your church making the invitation, so they can personally invite someone to come, and it's a video instead of just a post. So, if you look at POS or POCC social media page, and I cannot reference them because those are the ones that I manage, you will rarely see an invitational post. We hardly ever invite people to church. And that's intentional. We're using the page for ministry as much as possible. And my personal philosophy is, and again, you can reject it, you don't have to agree with everything I say, but my personal philosophy is that if people feel that they're ministered to, then they will come to your church. If they're in your community and they feel like you have ministered to them, then you don't have to invite them. They'll find it for themselves. And that goes to the next thing that I want to mention as I'm finishing up here. And I'll leave you guys with some questions. I'm going to skip the rest of this. But one thing I do want to mention is that most of you guys are in charge of media at your church, social media, online presence. Every few months, do an audit. Do an audit of your social media page, do an audit of your church website. Make sure that all your content is up to date. Make sure that the address is right, because I know a lot of you are having to change venues because you're renting for a while and you have to move to another place. So make sure that your address is up to date. Make sure that your service times are accurate. Make sure that it's easy for people to find your church. Again, like I know, a lot of us are renting, and so it's not the easiest to just put an address. Sometimes, like, here's the address, you gotta walk around here, you gotta go around that corner, you gotta hop, skip, jump, duck, and then you'll find our church. So one thing we tried to do at POS is we created like a new here page specifically for someone who might be trying to visit our church for the very first time, and it goes through in detail what they're going to expect. So what's worship going to be like, how long the service is probably going to be, how long worship will be, how they should dress, right? So we don't tell them not to wear a tie, but be presentable. We don't want people to be shocked, rock up in t-shirt and shorts, and the rest of the church is, formal. Oh wow, I'm embarrassed. So if you put that on there, then they have a good idea of how they should be, how their experience is going to go. Okay? All right, I'll finish with that. Does anybody have any questions? Please, no, there's no dumb questions. I finished early because I want to have questions.
Do you use hashtags?
Yes. So for POCC, because we're just trying to get into the community, we definitely use hashtags. We're trying to get in those. I'm not sure how effective they are, but if you're a growing church, you're trying everything you possibly can. So if I can get our information in front of somebody else's eyeballs, then I'm going to try and do that. So yes, I do use hashtags for that. I don't use too many, so maybe like 4 or 5. For POS, we pretty much, we don't really have to. We have a good community, so it'll be shared or people will find it. Yeah. Good question. Yes?
How do you go about consent?
Say again?
How do you go about consent people?
Consent. At POS, we've got a sign when you enter into the sanctuary that lets them know that we have photography. By coming in, you're consenting that your image can. And if anyone ever requests for an image to be taken down, we'll take it down straight away. We avoid photos of children for the most part. POCC, we can probably post a bit more kids because it's more of an intimate setting. We know all the families, so on and so forth. POS, because it's a big group of people, you never know what the history of that child is, what the history of the family. So we try to stay away from kids. And you'll notice that if you look at POS photos, unless the children are on the platform doing a children's program, there's no photos of kids, pretty much. Any other questions?
So one of the issues I found as well with my church building is like lighting.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there's like tips you can kind of give, because I do use some key editing apps to try and write images, and it doesn't work, and then it just ends up making it so it even work.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
You can't really play something for bits as well.
Well, you noticed last night, even the lighting here is not great. So, like, if it's the straight camera, they're lit, and it's on the side, I was like, what is that shadow? And it was just his mic, and it was like going across his face. Like, this is terrible. Amy, did you want to answer? I'm just kidding. Amy does a lot of our editing at POS. So she would be able to give you a good idea when it comes to, if you want to chat to her, she can give you a good idea about, she uses, our team uses a lot of Lightroom Classic. So, but again, that's a cost. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars per month. Free versions, like Afterlight, that one's pretty robust for a free version, and you're just going to have to do the best that you can. So try and make adjustments with your camera. If you're using your iPhone, you can even make adjustments with your iPhone. If you're not using that, I don't really know too much about the other camera phones, but try to make adjustments before you take the photo, because it's hard to adjust it after. Right? You can, but you can't create a miracle, right? Because we don't necessarily have talent. So try and make those corrections before you take the photos. So if your sanctuary is dimly lit, if you have are you using a camera or using your phone?
I use my phone.
Yep. Is it iPhone or a different type of phone? Okay. So you can go into the settings. I would recommend go on YouTube and watch some videos as to how you can adjust your ISO and stuff on your phone. I know there's a few adjustments you can make, and get some schooling on that. And then once you've adjusted that, that will help you. And then I would use an app like Afterlight, which is free, and you can try and turn the brightness up and make some changes to it. Was that good, Amy? Any other questions? Yes?
Put something on Facebook. Maybe I don't want to do that. I'm not too sure. Well, I'm not ashamed of my religion or anything like that. It's not the way I like to go.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's your choice. I guess the whole purpose of this is to talk about ways that you can use it. So if it's something that isn't going to work for you, that's your decision to make as an individual. I would suggest that you try and get comfortable with that as best as you can, because this is going to be a way that you're going to be able to reach more people without having to go door to door, sort of thing. But like I said, no pressure. Like if you feel like this is not going to work for you, then to each their own.